Sure. Good afternoon, one and all. Respected Vice Chancellor, Dayanand Sagar University and Chairman BITES, Dr. KNB Murthy, respected Deans, Chairman of Mechanical, Aerospace and other departments, dear faculty members and students from various engineering colleges. I am Dr. Sharath Kumar from Aerospace Department of School of Engineering, Dayanand Sagar University. And it's my privilege to welcome you all and introduce Ms. Shobha Kulavil, who will be delivering today's distinguished guest lecture, DGL, being organized by BITES. BITES stands for the Board of IT Education Standards, an autonomous body and a non-profit society promoted by the government of Karnataka in association with educational institutions and IT industries in Karnataka. This will be in the format of a virtual webinar for about 40 to 50 minutes, followed by a 10 to 15 minutes of question and answer sessions. Our distinguished guest, Ms. Shobha Kulavil, is a business leader in the aerospace engineering area with more than 25 years of experience. Having worked in the National Aeronautical Laboratory, HAL, she was with ADA in the aerosystem design and composite tooling area before she joined TCS and was heading the aerospace vertical of European operations TCS and subsequently the joint general manager of L&T Aerospace and Defense Division. She has also worked with Rolls-Royce as the head of outsourcing and Honeywell International as the general manager of engineering services. She is currently the chief executive officer and managing director of NextGen Excel. We are very happy, ma'am, that you could take out this time in spite of a very busy schedule, and all of us are very eager to you. We invite you and welcome you to address all of us. Ms. Shobha Kulavil.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm really excited to be part of this session. So usually it's customers or it is team members that I address. So it's very rarely that I have been addressing an audience of students and faculty. So really, it's an honor. So thank you for having me on board. I can see almost quite a crowd has joined this session. So thank you also for my introduction. It was nice to hear my introduction. So whatever I go through today in terms of the aerospace and defense industry, I spent almost 25 years now in this industry. And even after spending 25 years, I feel that there is so much more for me to learn. And each time I go through a project, each time I work on something new, everything is very exciting. So I'm really excited to talk about this industry, which has fascinated me, which has been part of my career journey. And I'll be happy to take all questions at the end. But if there is, as I said, the industry is so vast and so fascinating. If I know the answers, I give you the answers. If I don't know, I'll obviously find out and from my friends and network and let you know. So, what I thought today for this community of students and faculty, and me as a practitioner who has been in this industry in technical roles, in business roles, in customer facing roles, been part of some very large challenges. I thought I will speak about what is trending in the industry. What is that, the industry is facing as a challenge today? Obviously, trends come when you try to overcome some challenges and you are moving into a future that is better than what is today, right? So, what is this industry facing as a challenge, and what is it changing for to meet the future and also overcome these challenges? So, with that note, I start and fairly for the students. I don't know your background; it might be coming from different streams of engineering. may or may not understand the aerospace industry so well. So with whatever time I have, I'll try to give you a quick overview of the industry to start with. I hope my screen is visible to you.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, thank you. So the aerospace and defense industry, usually both are clubbed together when it is referred to, but then each one is in its own way, has its own details, it has its own vastness, it has its own depth, right? So for the sake of simplicity and for the sake of today's discussion, we restrict the discussion to just the flying platforms. There are defense platforms like the tanks. There are defense systems like the battle management system, tactical communication systems. So defense is even more vast than just the flying platforms. So we restrict this discussion just to the flying platforms, which is the commercial aircrafts, the defense aircrafts, the UAVs. So, and there is obviously also the helicopter and other platforms. But to kind of explain what is a trend, I think this was enough. So basically, if you just take up the segment of the commercial aircrafts, defense aircrafts, UAVs, the flying platforms, if you look at the first level breakdown of the entire platform itself, you can very quickly map it to the core aerostructures, which is the fuselage, the wing, the nose cone, the tail, etc. And I'm sure the students from the aerospace stream will be able to understand it better. This is more for those who don't come from the aerospace stream. The aircraft engines, the what you see here is Rolls-Royce engine, my favorite, Trent engine, and then the aero systems, which includes multiple systems in the aircraft, which is the landing gear. It can be the different other hydraulic systems. It can be the braking systems, wheels and brakes, etc. So the multiple systems, which are basically mechanical or hydraulic systems that are included. The entire cabin interiors, and of course the avionics of the aircraft. Okay, so this is a very high level breakdown for those who would like to understand the aerospace industry and the flying platform itself. Okay, so typically the activities that are done over the life cycle is starting from concept and design to validation, testing, certification, manufacturing, production, and the aftermarket, which is the MRO. Aftermarket is once the product is in service. So the industry basically serves it. When I say the industry, especially if you look at the Indian industry working on aerospace projects, there are engineering service providers, there are IT service providers, and of course now there is going to be a mix. There's going to be the complete digital suite of service providers, which has to kind of streamline with the IT and engineering. Okay, the industry by itself is highly process driven. It is a safety critical industry, and unless and until processes drive the way we work, it is very difficult to provide the scale. Like if it's an A380 or A350 or the Boeing aircrafts, the scale and size, repeatability, provide repeat orders, come out with in time the products. It is very difficult unless and until this industry goes in a process driven manner. So this has been understood very early by the industry itself. Standardization, following all the design processes, design methodologies, design standards, etc., following the safety requirements in terms of what it needs to get the product certified, and what are the safety aspects. So like, for example, in avionics, you have the level A, level B software. So these are all criticality levels. So fairly, if you look at the multiple industry sectors and you look at aerospace and defense, aerospace and defense drives the entire business through very process in a very process controlled manner, and very savvy about the safety requirements. And equally, so the reason I say it is, people who aspire to work in this industry, you need to fall in line with these requirements. You need to actually, when you say quality, you need to get that feel, the feel of process, the feel of quality. Only then, you can kind of survive in this industry. And likewise, if you see, the rail segment actually follows the aerospace industry. So many technologies, if you see across rail, they have been a derivative of the aerospace industry's processes and the way the aerospace industry actually functions. So when you talk about trends, what is trending in this industry? Obviously, I just tried to depict the complete life cycle of the product itself. This is a generic one, but then it applies very clearly to the aerospace industry. There is obviously, the concept phase and the design phase, and all of you understand that very well. So the first part you see on the top row is the complete product engineering, which most of the engineering services companies here in India work on. And as on today, the OEMs, they are like, the major OEMs. When I say OEMs, and they are tier ones, actually, not only the aircraft manufacturers, because most of the aircraft manufacturers, they have just become integrators, right? They no more do system design in house, because it's all given out to the tier ones, right? So the tier ones, even the tier ones, are equally powerful as the aircraft OEMs, whether it is an avionics tier one like Thales, or it is Grumman or Honeywell, anybody. All of them fairly follow design rules across the globe in a unified manner. But today, the aerospace industry, is no more in a full-fledged product development mode, because there are so many aircraft orders that are pending, and there's a backlog in the industry. But when it comes to the entire life cycle, really what the industry is struggling with is, sometimes the designers, they want to obviously do their best, right? So the designers go into designs which are which do not take into consideration a lot of manufacturing needs, because ultimately, when a design is being done, it has to be manufactured. It has to become a product ultimately, isn't it? So the designer has to become very savvy about how this product is going to be manufactured, what are its maintenance aspects, can it be made ease of can there be ease of maintenance incorporated at the stage of design itself, right? Can they find better ways to liaison with manufacturing and ensure that the design is a manufacturable one, right? So there needs to be a complete line of a thread of excellent and seamless communication between design, manufacturing, as well as how it is going to be maintained. What at how is the repair and maintenance going to happen, right? So that's the first one. So in terms of design, really the concept is keep it simple. because obviously the designers are very excited about what they need to do, what they need to deliver, and they have to be very creative. But even creativity, R&D, everything has to be done in a very structured way. So structured innovation, keeping designs simple, and modular designs. Modular design is the need of the industry, even avionics. So this life cycle that you see on the screen is not just for mechanical components, it's also for the avionics, that is the electronics components, systems, etc. So even avionics, Airbus has come up with the concept of integrated modular avionics. That means the LRUs, the concept of LRUs itself, the line replaceable units, the boxes, which can, if there is a battery system, how can it be also be an environmental control system? How can it be customized between the two, right? So with the least changes, so that's about modularity. Even in design, we see that the modular concept is picking up. So there is, keep this design simple, keep it modular, see how it can be connected across the entire life cycle, and for ease of manufacturing, for ease of maintenance. Now, similarly for testing also, there is automation that is completely coming into play. How can you do testing virtually in terms of simulation? How can you simulate everything and test, so that you can avoid a lot of testing costs? Not only testing costs, it's time, facility availability, and it's also designing the entire test system. So there's a lot of process involved into the whole thing. And the major change, the major mindset change, cultural change that is happening today is in terms of manufacturing. So industry 4.0 now, industry 4.0 has been fairly to a large extent implemented very well by the automotive companies. And I think it's easier for them because this complete supply line, and it is more of a lot of mass manufacturing that happens out there. But when it comes to aerospace, a lot of processes are customized to the particular assembly line. It is customized to the shop. Sometimes you need to change the supply chain, or the supply chain has to get really efficient, and there's a lot of investment. So when it comes to manufacturing, there is backlogs that people have to deal with. That means people who are struggling for today to deliver results for today, they also need to think about what's tomorrow. That means an entire digital system has to be implemented. A lot of things need to change. People have to change culturally, their mindset has to change. But a few years back, digital was like, it's like nice to have, but no more. It's no more the case, because going digital, implementing industry 4.0, getting your efficiency up, getting the right product at the right time is the need of the hour. It is a must for most companies, and it is no more a nice to have thing. So that's more about the manufacturing. So I'll talk about the digital trends in the next slides. I'll show you how it is. This is more for you to understand the life cycle. Now, when it comes to manufacturing, the OEMs actually struggle uh, because the manufacturers, the supply chain, because every component, every system will have a limited supply chain. It's not like the other industries, right? There might be 2 suppliers or 3 suppliers, and strategic locations across the globe for a particular component. And even if one supplier doesn't deliver in time, the entire the entire assembly line gets held up. So, and obviously, as the delivery of the product to the airline delays, costs keep delaying, right? They keep adding up on penalties, because the OEMs have huge penalties signed up with their end customer. And if I don't know if you've been following the Trent issues with Rolls-Royce. So when Trent went into the issues on the compressors, there was a huge penalty that was getting paid to the end customer. So because of which companies go under financial losses. So when you have to pay up penalties, so much of money that could have been invested on resources, on projects, just go away, right? And it's not like the OEMs make a lot of profit out of the whole thing. So every piece of uh, time that is invested is really important. So when it comes to manufacturing, manufacturers and the supply chain, they come up, there's something called manufacturing concession. Airbus has a team of, over the past few years, they had a team of close to 1,000 people working just on manufacturing concession. Now, what is manufacturing concession? The supply chain, they come up, they manufacture a part, and then there is a deviation in it. You cannot throw away a huge wing part, right? So much of material, so much of time, so much of effort has gone into the whole thing. So what they give is they if it is not a huge one, they send back the deviation and say, hey guys, this is a deviation from the design. Can you, do you think you can approve it, right? Or is there a fix? So there are close to 1,000 people just working on manufacturing concessions. So if you can reduce 10 concessions, if you can reduce 20 concessions, it's a huge saving across the life cycle, not only for the OEM, but also for the manufacturer. They save on time, they save on resources. So that's trending when it comes to the manufacturing industry. How can they really deliver what the results in the right way? Okay, and for that, they really have to go into a lot of automated processes. They have to go into a lot of their process control, process streamlining, go lean. And as I said, the entire cycle, life cycle, from design, manufacturing to maintenance, how can it be a one thread? Now, in terms of IT, in terms of the ERP solutions, you see that there is so much of data. There is so much of data, not only that is with the OEM, but it is exchanged with the supply chain. It is exchanged, the engineering suppliers, the manufacturing suppliers, the airlines, etc. So the OEMs need to implement a complete collaborative platform. And there are multiple collaborative platforms that are there, and there are platforms that are customized for the aerospace industry. You can see the ERP platform, the product lifecycle management platforms, like Dassault has, Siemens, they provide the PLM platforms. um, asset management plays a huge role in the aftermarket, in this segment, in the in service and aftermarket segment, for a lot of predictive maintenance, scheduling of maintenance, timing the maintenance very well. Okay, so this has to be a complete streamlined system, and data is so sacrosanct for the aerospace industry, right? And life extensions and refurbishments obviously come from, it comes from the complete, you need to have the complete data of the aircraft if it needs to be modified or refurbished. And legacy data, a lot of legacy data plays a big role out here. So if everything is on a common platform, complete handoffs between suppliers across, the different areas of the life cycle. It really becomes seamless. So that's the struggle which the OEMs are actually going through, how to make the entire process completely streamlined. Obviously, it's a struggle, but then the learnings have been immense. And I would say that the aerospace industry is really doing very well in terms of, uh, going from one, what can I say, one landscape to another, and getting better and better at handling the entire life cycle. So I already spoke about the design life cycle. Keep it simple, keep it modular. How can you introduce value engineering, manufacturing and maintenance considerations right at the level of design, and how can you follow it across the life cycle of manufacturing and maintenance is the theme of the entire engineering across the complete life cycle. When it comes to digital, okay, so I already said that going digital for these companies is no more a nice to have solution. It is the need of the hour. It is survival for the aerospace industry. Okay, so there is the dark trend that is there on, you can find on the internet. You can, I think there are large companies that are following the dark trend in terms of digital. When I say digital, it is for also multiple other industries, um, where D stands actually for the distributed systems, but I have changed it to data for aerospace, because it's data, data, and data. Terabytes of data is generated in one flight of the aircraft. And how do you segregate the data? How do you use the data? How do you analyze it? How do you feed it back into that entire life cycle that you saw in the previous slide? How do you feed it back to design? How do you feed it back to manufacturing? How is it going to be used for predictive maintenance? How can you reduce the aircraft on ground time? That means if an aircraft is grounded and it is not planned, you're going into 3 hours or 4 hours of waiting. It's a huge loss for the airline. So how can the AOG be reduced? So the entire life cycle, how can it be mapped? So for the sake of simplicity, I have mapped here the product design, manufacturing, supply chain, and aftermarket. What kind of digital transformation is required by the industry? So across the entire thing, you find the digital twin is obviously catching up. But for the aerospace industry, it is a little slow because of the magnitude of data and the life cycle complexities. But it will definitely catch up, and it is going to definitely take off, right? Manufacturing industry 4.0 and smart factory is already, most of the factories are moving into smart factory. It's not that they're going to change their entire systems, but they're going to streamline their entire systems to become more agile and more efficient. And it's all about data traceability. It's all about reliability, data traceability, repeatability, interchangeability. So these are the key words in the industry. And if you guys get to work in a manufacturing industry, and I personally love working in the manufacturing industry because I did my master's in tool engineering. We used to spend close to 4 hours just on the shop floor. And in HAL, I used to work in the process shop. So I used to really enjoy the entire sequence of being part of the manufacturing industry. Every segment actually has its own excitement. So I say this because Over the years, I have seen many candidates, especially when they come from the colleges into the industry, they have a mindset, right? They say, I want to only do design. I only want to develop the code. I don't want to test it. What I would like to say is everything is engineering. Even if you have to test the code, you need to know the product. You need to understand what is said and what is unsaid in the testing. In the SDLC document. Without that, you cannot do testing. So everything has its own learning, and this industry needs people who are very passionate about technology. So don't get into nitty gritties of I want to do this, I want to do this. Just stand back, try to understand the entire the entire gamut of activities. Try to get multi-skilled, okay, and go in depth into whatever you do. And when you go in depth into whatever you do, you're able to actually deliver results, right? Supply chain has its own issues. If the supply chain is not completely streamlined, if there's no real time data exchange with the supply chain, so connecting the supply chain onto a complete digital platform is also the need of the hour, right? Similarly, the aftermarket is completely about digital. It's completely about the IT solutions. You need to, the engine data that comes in is completely used for, predicting any failures, predicting all kinds of, doing the scheduled maintenance for it, because you cannot allow an AOG to happen. AOG is aircraft on ground. I already explained that, right? So how can you use data, and data should empower you, right? That's the big data all about. AR and VR is still picking up in the industry. A lot used for the aftermarket segment, the augmented reality, sometimes it's a mixed reality that is used. Okay. So quantum computing has already been in the industry from a long time. It's not new anymore. I just wanted to show you a few examples of companies that are going completely digital. And because digital is a big word, and many people don't understand, they ask me, what's digital for the aerospace industry? The industry has already been digital from a long time. But it's all about how do you use information wisely? How do you get into a very collaborative environment? How do you make the entire system very efficient? And more importantly, the user experience. It's all about the end user. How can you make the end user's life very easy, right? So this is a platform of Airbus. It's called Skywise. You can look up a lot of YouTube videos on Skywise. I also put a link, but I think I don't know if I have the time to play it, and how do I play it on this platform. So I'll kind of send it to the organizers. They can share with you, and you can look it up. So what does Skywise do? Skywise is an integrated platform. It's an integrated platform for MROs. It is for lessors, the complete airlines, because once the product goes into service, the airlines, they have the maximum need to efficiently utilize the flying hours. They not only need to efficiently utilize the flying hours, their ticketing systems, etc. But obviously, Skywise does not deal with the ticketing systems and all that. It deals more with the operations of the aircraft when it is linked to the airlines, right? So the entire services of the airports. And also, before I forget, actually, um, how many of you have actually seen an air traffic management at the airport, right? If you can just imagine, there at one point in time there are so many aircrafts that are landing in the airport. There are so many aircrafts taking off. The ATC plays a big role in the scheduling of the aircrafts, and also the navigation, communication in while in air. The communication has to be so clear, right? The communication is in a coded language, and it has to be very, very clear, because if the pilot does not understand even one word of what the ATC has communicated, it can go in for disaster, right? So the human machine interface, HMI, plays a big role in the ATC, and the ATC, air traffic management system itself, goes for upgradations very, very frequently. Okay, so so more than just the product, the related, the entire environment related to it, that's what plays a big role in the industry. So it has to be completely streamlined. One is actually the product engineering and manufacturing of the product itself. Afterwards, it is the operations. It is the complete, airline operations, the maintenance, repair, overhaul. If there is an aircraft life extension to happen, that complete process itself. So Honeywell has also come up with Honeywell Forge for the airlines. Honeywell uses Forge also for their internal systems, and this is again, so very much focused on data prediction of the functioning of the different systems within the aircraft, the airport requirements, the key integrating, and then the secure view of the airline operations. How does it happen? So that's what Honeywell Forge focuses on. This is a platform. It's an IoT platform, right? It's similarly Skywise is an IoT platform. So the question as to where, you know, because when you say digital, there are so many jargons that I use. There is IoT, there's big data. So actually understanding the application of it is very important. Okay, so huge when you have a platform like this, and it is customized for the airline operations, the impact is really huge in terms of savings. So there are many more. You can also look up GE Predix, and even the tier one suppliers, the system suppliers, are coming up with a lot of customer experience tools. So look into it, because that gives you a very good idea of what is the role of digital in the industry. Quick one on the IT, role of IT in the industry. All the baggage handling, like for example, TCS, or our own Indian companies. TCS has a platform for providing these services. They call it Swift MRO. So the entire baggage handling in the aircraft, the complete aircraft, the airline operations. How do the airlines plan their crew? How do they plan schedule their aircrafts, their flights, etc., ticketing systems, etc. So this is entirely managed by most of there are many large service providers in India who manage all these things. They take it up as a complete solution for the airlines. So this is what IT plays a big role, and IT obviously does a lot of automation, managing of the ERP systems, right? But either way, it has to be a complete integrated thread across engineering, digital, as well as IT. So fairly for the time that we have, I hope I've done justice to the time. That's what I had. This is just one of the robotics examples from Industry 4.0, where Boeing, they did their complete, large, if you can look up this video, Boeing for their the fuselage, the installation, etc. They built huge robotics, and there are huge vehicles. See, it's not just about the aircraft itself. The manufacturing shop, you need the movement of material, the movement of the manufactured product itself, like for example the fuselage and the assembly lines. There are huge vehicles that are used, the AGVs, automatic guided vehicles. And there are some very well known manufacturers like KUKA in Germany. So these are completely, robotic. They are they are guided automatically. So they use AGVs on the Boeing final assembly lines as well as the fuselage assembly lines. Take a look at this video and it'll give you a really good idea about the robotics. There is obviously robotics in software and RPA, etc., but it's never as interesting as watching this huge robotic system perform. So take a look at this video uh, online if you guys get some time. So it will give you a good idea of how it is changing the manufacturing spectrum for the aerospace and defense industry. So I hope I've given you a good idea about what's trending in the industry and where the industry is heading towards. Happy to take your questions.
Thank you so much, Shobha. I'll request Professor Surya to anchor the question and answers.
Yeah, good afternoon. It was quite a nice talk, especially showing how IT is coming into picture in aerospace industry, especially towards the production of a marketable product. Okay, so there are basically there's just one question from a so-called anonymous attendee. The question is, ma'am, how far has the research into commercial UAVs come along?
Well, the commercial UAVs there are quite some that are already operational. Like if it is for the agriculture sector, it's not here, it's not in India. For the agriculture sector, there are some French-based companies, there are some US-based companies who work on these commercial UAVs. But the defense UAVs itself is a huge market for India. So there is good capability actually here. But the see, everything has to kind of get approved by DGCA for India to operate. So I don't. It's not about the research. It's more about the final operations that is important. There is also the usage of the UAVs and the drones in the ONG industry, oil and gas industry. But no, it still needs to pick up. But in terms of the technology, obviously it is there. It's about the increasing the flying hours of the UAV. It's about the camera efficiency, the navigation. So those are the areas which still need to pick up a little more.
Okay, we have another question from Mr. Mallikarjun. He's a student in data science, he's studying mechanical engineering and also data sciences, and he's in a aero design student club. The question is, how do you see job opportunities in this field for a mechanical engineer with data science skills? Do core engineering freshers have edge over others?
Yes, there is quite some opportunities in terms of data science, because most of the aerospace driven digital initiatives are always starting off with data. Like for example, Rolls-Royce has started their, either they call it R2 or R squared, I don't know, R squared data labs. So that is completely data innovation. So that's their data innovation pillar, right? And even ISRO is working on completely usage of data and how can it be. So there are a lot of startups also who are focusing purely on data innovation and data science, right? Because the health monitoring of the aircraft and all the aerospace platforms is a need. It's not a nice to have, it's a need. So even whether you are a mechanical engineer or you are from some other stream, it doesn't matter. Being a mechanical engineer has an advantage. But yes, I would say that, work for some time to understand the system at least, because it's one thing to study in the textbook and then it's another to just get a feel of the work. So try to get a feel of the work, say do a design job or do a V&V job or whatever it is, to get a feel of the entire system is my recommendation. But then obviously you have your own choice.
And we have a question from Mr. Ishan. He's asking whether small scale businesses can be set up in aerospace field.
Yes, absolutely. There is the MSME. You can set up as an MSME, and most of the DRDO labs, like ISRO, has a cell for facilitating small businesses, and even the DRDO labs, they have their own. They have forums and they have set up to facilitate the small businesses. But you have to select what is the business, and then you have to do a good market study about it, and obviously get in touch with mentors. And if you wish, you can always get in touch with me or with my businesses. I can help you understand what kind of business suits your interest as well. It's obviously you also need to have the passion in the field. Yeah.
There's one more question. It says, ma'am, you have worked in many manufacturing companies. We want to know one general quality that every aerospace company expects from a fresher.
Okay. So see, the manufacturing industry generally, because it is vast, right? The manufacturing industry is vast, and even if you have learned some basics, to obviously they need to train you up. They need to train you up in certain technologies, or you can attend some structured bridge courses if you want to select a specific manufacturing sector. Generally, it is in the industry, generally, if you have the right attitude, if you are in a position to understand, and if you are able to pick up the technology, you have commitment and attitude is what is the industry looking for, right? That's your core skill. Apart from knowing the manufacturing method, you have to obviously do a lot of learning on your own, right? Because nobody has a time to keep teaching you. So you have to be very proactive in terms of learning. And obviously a lot of things you will get to learn. Like, I just want to quote that, before I joined my master's program, I was actually working with NAL, and I was in the instrumentation lab as well as the metrology lab, right? So the lab was left to me. They didn't have anybody to work in the lab, so I used to just sit and read the manuals. I used to go talk to different people around me and request them as to how I do the job, because every inspection has to be done. The inspection reports have to be given, and it was such a good phase that once I joined my MTech program, I was the highest scorer actually in the metrology subject, while everybody else couldn't understand. So you have to get a feel. Manufacturing is all about the feel. When you say the dimension, when you say 1 thou, you should know it should come in your mind. You should have a feel of what is 1 thou. So you should develop that core skill.
Yeah, I'm very happy to know that you worked in NL for some time, because I worked for a very long time in NL in the aerodynamics sector in internal testing.
Okay.
I have one observation to make. You mentioned about various disciplines like structures, aero engines, aero systems, interiors, and avionics.
Mhm.
But what I feel is that the fundamental requirement that really comes up is when one writes a specifications for a flying platform.
Yeah.
You determine what's the cruise condition, what's the Mach number, what's the altitude, and things like that. What are the aerodynamic requirements? What's the load factor, for example? And based on that, the first thing that happens is the aerodynamic design, which you did not mention in the topic. So I was wondering why you have left out aerodynamics as one of the verticals.
So it's like not everybody gets to work in the aerodynamic design. So design just covers the whole thing because most of it is done by the OEM. And then if you get an opportunity to go and be at Airbus facility or Boeing facility, then they involve you into it. Work that is kind of given out here. So it's just from a practical application perspective. So otherwise, yes, it's covered in the overall design part. Yes. So unless and
And
until
then we
you
have a
work
question.
in NAL, you can work in. Not everybody will get to work in NAL or ADA because I myself was in ADA, so I
All
know
right.
that part of it. Yeah.
Okay, so there's a next question that is there any active work being done in the towards development of sustainable aviation fuel as pollution levels are on the rise?
Oh, there is a lot of work. That is completely a sector for research. There are a lot of research segments, how to make the fuel efficient, the carbon footprint, reducing the carbon footprint. Propulsion is a very interesting industry. So I think propulsion not just for the aircraft but also for the space industry. For there is a lot of research being
Electric
done.
propulsion, for example. Yeah.
Yes. So that's also if you are looking at a startup, that's also a field that you might want to look at. And people who are very um, you like to be part of the R&D industry. So materials and propulsion is an industry where a lot of research is getting done, because again, that's the need of the hour.
Next question is coding required for aerospace engineers due to considering the recent trends in aerospace industry and the importance in data science? Do you think coding is required to be learned by aerospace engineers?
I would really suggest that you learn coding if you are into avionics, into the embedded systems and electronics. Obviously, you have to learn to code, and I personally have learned coding. So the usage is very less because I've never worked in those technical domains. But yes, you do need it. It will be nice because if you understand the basics at this level, it will be easier to understand the technology at an overall level. So you may not apply it, or you may apply it. It's a different story. But then, if you understand the entire block, it will be easier for you to build on it in a later stage. So, and when you are a fresher is when you get to learn, and it's okay to learn multiple things.
Yeah, next question is, can you give an idea of auto taxing of a commercial aircraft?
Auto taxing of a commercial aircraft, yes. So see, the autopilot obviously it comes into the concept of autopilot. So autopilot is already in practice right now. Auto taxing is obviously with a lot of sensors. There is need of integrating sensors and also capturing the sensor data into the communication system of the aircraft. So there is still a lot of work to be done on the sensors, especially even if there is work to be done on the sensors, and there is also work to be done on the implementation of the sensors on the different parts of the aircraft. So it's being done in bits and pieces, maybe not at a complete full-fledged level, right? So the autopilot is already in practice with many aircrafts. But yeah, it's like there is this driverless train. When I used to work with some of the large rail companies also. So there was a driverless train that was introduced in the Delhi Metro, and because it's a technology by itself, right? And so it takes a lot of research and it takes a lot of time and effort to release the technology, and then people refused to kind of sit in the train, so they had to put a driver there to ensure that people have the confidence that to sit in the train. So it's also the mindset. One is the technology, the other is the mindset. So there is a lot of work to be done on the technology also.
The next question is, what are the ways by which an aerospace industry can attract mechanical engineer? I'm sorry, I'll read it again. What are the ways to join aerospace industry being a mechanical engineer?
So you will have to go look at the roles in terms of what kind of roles are there. Basically, it starts off maybe if you at an entry level, it's more into the digital mockup area, where you are kind of either you are working on CATIA or you are working on Unigraphics, or you have a good understanding of some VNB tools, the verification and validation tools. If you are able to learn it, and you can obviously look at some meshing activities or some design activities. When you say design, it's more about digital prototyping. So there is you can look up that kind of roles, and there and also look up you can kind of register yourself with most of the OEMs. You can put up your profile with most of the OEMs.
Next question is, what are the opportunities available for MTech design engineer?
Okay, so MTech design engineer in a specific stream, or so
I think the background is in the IT industry or in the trending topics, trending
Okay.
areas of aerospace. What are the opportunities for a MTech in design engineering?
Okay. So yeah, I think the as I said, mostly it is about the technologies that are getting used. All the what can I say? Most of the job roles, if I just get very specific, most of the job roles is around data scientists. There are a lot of data scientists that are required, and if you can kind of prepare on that lines, you can kind of look up LinkedIn and look up what data scientist roles are, and that can actually get you onto some amount of roles there. But then a lot of application development and RPA roles also. When I say robotic process automation, if you can look up specific job roles for robotic process automation, that can actually get you into a design and development role. But that's on the core IT systems that you can look up. And application development is also catching up to a large extent. um, so better is to look up these kind of roles in terms of application development, in terms of RPA, in terms of data scientists, right?
Yeah, okay, madam. With that, we have come to the end of the Q&A session. I would like to thank you very much for giving clarity on all the questions. And I'm sure that the students would benefit a lot from the answers that you've given. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir. I would request Professor Vinayak, Chairman for Mechanical Department, to kindly deliver the vote of thanks.
Thank you, one and all. Good afternoon, everyone. Nice to be part of today's talk. I would like to thank Ms. Shobha Kulwil, CEO, Managing Director, NextGen Excel, for delivering a very interesting, very informative and useful topic on latest trends in aerospace engineering. specifically highlighting upon challenges associated with different types of air machines. Ma'am also highlighted upon the simple modular system design for aircraft components, understanding the capabilities of manufacturing, that is very, very important, and following industry 4.2, that is digital manufacturing. It is really a very informative session, ma'am. Our students will be definitely benefited by this, and it has opened a horizon of thinking so that they can work upon their skills and knowledge so that they can enter into aerospace engineering. Thank you, ma'am. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it and was happy to be a part of the session. Thank you.
And I'd also like to thank Honorable Vice Chancellor, Dayanand Sagar University, Dr. K.N.B. Murthy, who is also the chairman of BITES. Thank you, sir, for your valuable presence.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
And I would also like to thank the office bearers and BITES for striving hard to impart knowledge through webinars on technical, social, and philosophical and other relevant issues. Thank you, BITES, for organizing such a wonderful talk. I extend my gratitude to Dr. Jasma and faculty members of aerospace engineering and mechanical engineering for coordinating the event. Last but never the least, I would like to thank all the student participants from different colleges for participating into this event and making it a very meaningful. Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good day.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Have a good
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Good day.
Bye.
Bye.